A ranked showdown in Louisville, Kentucky this weekend. The number 10 Fighting Irish face off against the number 25 Louisville Cardinals. And to talk about it is Mark Ennis, someone who I've known for actually about a decade or so, going back to when I used to cover Louisville back in the Bobby Petrino days. So a little ways away, or a while back now. But so we're bringing on Mark to talk about the Louisville side of things. Obviously, we do a ton of videos on the Notre Dame angle, but we want to bring in someone who covers the team that Notre Dame is facing. So, folks, before we dive into it, please hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our channel for more content, and head to blueandgold.com for much coverage. So, Mark, I always ask this question to folks who cover the other team is, going into the game, what is the vibe from this Cardinal side, whether it's from the media, the fans, the coaches? What's the big talking point heading into this matchup?
I think, generally speaking, there's a tremendous amount of excitement and a feeling of like this is what you wanted when you hired Jeff Brown. Like, this is the kind of game you wanted Louisville to be in. This is the kind of opponent that I think fans have a lot of confidence that he will get a team ready to play for. Louisville's football history is largely built on winning games that probably ought not win because they've got really good coaches and who are a decided advantage in a game. And I think that's what you thought you were going to get with Jeff. So far, I think 5-0, and there's a tremendous amount of excitement. And I think fans, maybe people on the outside looking into this game, shouldn't overlook the fact that Notre Dame is uniquely important to people in this city. Louisville is a big Catholic city. There are thousands of people for whom Notre Dame is the second favorite team for them. And they have been something that Louisville, I think fans have aspired to for Louisville's football program. So I think this game means a lot on a lot of levels. A lot of narratives kind of come together all in one game for Louisville this week.
Yeah, when Notre Dame plays a team like Duke on the road and they play at Louisville, it's those teams kind of Super Bowls. I don't know if that's a term that, yeah, if that's fair to you. Yeah, it's interesting. And Notre Dame plays Ohio State, and then they get Duke, and then Louisville. So I'm interested in your estimation here. How good is this Louisville team? Because it seems like at times they've steamrolled some teams. And then I think NC State, they didn't look so good, but hey, they got the win on the road, and Notre Dame got a win on the road there, and it was tough for a little while. So, yeah, just like, how good is this Cardinals team in your estimation?
Is it awful to just settle no? And I hate to do that because, first of all, it makes for terrible talk radio. So let's be honest with you. Like, that's an awful answer for me to give. But, I think it is totally dependent on how you choose to look at things. I think you can look at the fact that they were a 7-5 team. They're 5-0, 3-0 in the ACC. They've never started 3-0 in conference play before. And offensively, you can already see where Jeff came in, put his fingerprints on what Louisville's doing offensively, and it's night and day better than it was. But there's no denying they've had not one game where I think you feel like they played 60 of their best minutes. And that you've had long stretches in games where they've looked really good and long stretches in games where you're like, what is happening out there? And so it kind of leaves you in a position of like, it's up to you which of those Louisvilles you really believe in. And I think maybe the scary reality is they're all Louisville. And that every single game is going to come down to how much of like the good version they maximize and the bad version they minimize. I think this might actually be who they are. It's like a couple of people under one big trench coat. And it's just about which one of them is the head that pokes out in various matchups.
Mark Ennis, host of The Drive on 93.9 The Ville. Yeah, if you're local there, you can find that Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. Notre Dame's very familiar with the Cardinals quarterback, Jack Plummer. I think it was Purdue in 2021 and then Cal in 2022. So this is 3 years in a row Notre Dame's facing Jack Plummer. What have you made from him this year? Like, what have you seen on the film?
Jack Plummer is everything I just said about Louisville as a team. Okay. So, there are stretches in games where you're like, whoa, that was nice. Even the NC State game, which wasn't great, he made some really nice throws, I think, especially in the second half. The Boston College game, obviously, 18 of 21, 388 yards, 5 touchdowns, whatever. And I think he's been surprisingly kind of crafty. I hate that word, but the ball when needed. But I think at times also in the Georgia Tech game in the opener of the first half, he was nervous. I don't know what else to say than that. And nothing between the hash marks was close to accurate. And they had to really abandon what they were doing offensively and be a quick throwing team. And you can see him at times see things a half second late, try to force it, and that sort of thing. NC State was the first game where I felt like he made a throw that was absolutely to the wrong place. But overall, I think he's made good decisions. I think he's just been tentative and kind of wired at times. And I think it's going to be a big challenge to get the good version of him and to keep him kind of within bounds, emotional energy, emotions level for Notre Dame this week. Because when he's good, it's real good. But when he's not, it hinders every single thing they do.
This is just so interesting here, learning about this Louisville team from you, Mark, because it seems like they're either going to be really good or really bad, and you just don't know. Defensively, Mark, I didn't put this on our notes for this, but can you real quick tell me about the Louisville defense, like strengths, weaknesses, anything like that?
Yeah, I think at this point, I think it's fair to say they feel really good about their ability to cover in the secondary. You know, Brownlee and Quincy Riley and Storm Duck and others, they've been able to, I think, absorb some injuries in the secondary and still be all right. And I think they probably feel like they're a good 4 deep, both at corner and safety. I think the problem for them is that this is the game that's going to matter the least. You know, I think Notre Dame is going to get out there with 2 tight ends. I think they're going to challenge Louisville up front. And I think Louisville's defensive line in front 7 isn't nearly as disruptive as it was a year ago, which happens when you lose a couple NFL draft picks up front. Like that's how it goes. But they did show some real signs of life against NC State. I think the problem for Louisville is that NC State's offensive line isn't nearly as good as what Notre Dame does offensively in their ability to run the ball and throw to the tight ends and that sort of thing. So it's a challenge for Louisville, I think, to maybe lean on its secondary and bring way more pressure than they really have up to this point in an effort to sort of counteract what I think Notre Dame would love to just line up and run it right down your throat. And I think they're capable of it.
It's interesting because against Duke, Notre Dame was down to 3 scholarship receivers. So Notre Dame could not push the ball downfield at all. And then Duke just was like, all right, let's just stop the run and sell out and start stopping Sam Hartman. So I think there's a little bit of a blueprint there. Now Notre Dame will be a little bit more healthy at the receiver position this weekend, Mark, with 2 of their best guys, Jaden Greathouse and Jaden Thomas. But still, I mean, when you're like Louisville's strength is in the secondary, well, I mean, if that's the case, then they can just like, all right, well, let's push all of our eggs into the stop and the run basket and help our front 7 there.
I think this is the first opponent that Louisville's faced that feels good enough about being able to just muscle you up and run the ball and make you stop it and maybe make them try to cover that tight end with one person, which I think would not be great. But I think Louisville is going to have to make a choice. They're going to have to pick a poison and roll the dice on being able to win that way. Much like I think NC State did to them last week. NC State, Jeff Brom said it on Monday after the game, they sold out. You know, I don't think they brought fewer than 5 on any play Louisville ran the whole game. And it was a choice. And for into the second half, it worked. Louisville was scoreless. And then finally, I think, settled in, hit some big throws. They never got the running game going. And I think Louisville's going to have to do the same thing. Notre Dame's going to have to hit a couple big throws. And Louisville's going to have to sell out with numbers to stop the run, because I think Notre Dame is just incredibly imposing in that way.
Yeah, they definitely are. It's such an interesting game, Mark, because you have the Notre Dame-Ohio State game that goes down to the wire, and then the Notre Dame Duke game that goes down to the wire. And then if you peek ahead to next weekend, you got maybe a 2-time Heisman kind of guy in Caleb Williams at the track that he's going last year. And, of course, he won last year. And then you got this Louisville team that is undefeated. At least they're like undefeated in rank, so you're not looking ahead too much to USC because Louisville can beat you. Do you have much in the way of a score prediction, Mark? I don't know if you're ready to throw out numbers at this point of the week as we record this on a Wednesday afternoon, but maybe some insight on how you see the game playing out?
No, I don't have a prediction yet. I think a lot of people here, though, I'll just tell you, are banking on and hoping for Jeff's ability to just get a team ready for these games. And if there was a thing that characterized Scott that really drove everybody nuts here, is like the big important games where you've done the work to get people to take you seriously. Like, here's an important game, and if you win it, you've done something undisputedly good. They never won those games. under Scott, and it ultimately, I think, sort of sunk him here, and he left. And Jeff, they did weird things at Purdue sometimes, lost some games they shouldn't, but when they played these games, like, they were ready for these games. And Louisville, in its history, when they've had games that we had a caller on Monday, I want to give him his credit, said this is going to be an occasion. This is going to be an event. And in Louisville's history, when they've had occasion games, they've made way more hay than they've not made in these games. And I think it's going to be kind of a feelings ball kind of thing. Like, if Jeff has one of his games and gets one of those games out of them, they'll have a chance to win. It's certainly the case, subjectively. Notre Dame has more ways they can win this game. No doubt in my mind about that. It's just a matter of, can Louisville sort of squeeze them into the one or two ways they can win the game.
Really good insight. Yep, great insight here from Mark Ennis. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Ennis. I think a good follow just in general in college football. And like I said, I've known Mark for a really long time. And
unless you're a ref, then I'm a terrible follow.
I've known Mark for about a decade, and when I was like, man, I want to interview somebody about the Cardinals, I sent out a tweet real quick of like, hey, who should I interview? Because I used to cover Louisville. I know a lot of the guys. I deleted that tweet real quick, so I was like, all right, Mark, I want you on here. So great stuff from Mark Ennis. Please follow him on Twitter, folks. Please hit that thumbs up on this video if you have not done so yet. And as always, we will catch you guys next time.